Howdy, howdy, and welcome back. It is that time. It's Workshop Wednesday. In fact, if you are here, it's because you are watching a Beyond Basics edition. So a little more complicated. You're going to have some built-in skills with Google Analytics 4 and Data Studio. But you see pretty cool stuff as we talk about the Eyes on the Journey report. Before we go too far into this, though, my name is Chris Mercer. Welcome if this is your first Workshop Wednesday. I'm the co-founder of a company called measurementmarketing.io. And however you found us, it doesn't matter if you found us through maybe some of the podcasts and talks that we have given. Maybe it's through some of the platforms that we've shared a bit of our content with, like CXL Institute or Social Media Examiner. Maybe you're already a member over at measurementmarketing.io. However you found us, we're happy that you're here. It's our job to help you learn how to use all these cool tools. And in this case, how to actually combine these tools. You're actually going to see a little bit from Tag Manager in this one, though it's really mostly focused about GA4 and Data Studio. But you will see all three working together to create this particular report. Now, of course, we do teach all of this stuff, as you will see, in the Measurement Marketing Academy. That is our flagship training program. So if that's of interest for you, at the end of today's content, I'll show you where you can go learn more information about how to be a member of our just-in-time learning platform there, so you can get your own measurement marketing culture in your own organization. Of course, with all of our workshops, we focus on one thing. That is one new idea, one new concept. So it might be just the fact of maybe you've never heard of the Eyes on the Journey report. So you'll see what that is. Maybe it's just the technique that we're using to build it. Maybe you can use that technique and build your own reports. You're going to see lots of different one things in this workshop. All right, let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Beyond Basics, how to create the Eyes on the Journey report using Google Analytics 4 and Data Studio. Now, of course, we're going to jump right in with the framework. We plan, we build, we launch. We're all marketing in the blind. We're trying to get to a point where just using a system produces the results we want. In this case, that means revenue and profits. Now, how do we do that? And where does today's training fit into this framework? Well, first, we plan. We make sure we are asking results and how questions. We are gathering the behaviors necessary to get answers to those questions. And most importantly, we understand the actions we're going to take based upon the answers we get. Now, in this little information stage here is where Tag Manager comes in, because it's building, or I should say it's collecting behaviors that you need in order to answer the questions. You're going to see behaviors like, was there an impression? Was there an introduction? Was there interest in the message, right? Are they investigating, in this case, the offer that particular page was making? And all of these start with eyes. You're going to see this, and that's why, of course, we call it the Eyes on the Journey report. You'll see that in just a moment. Now, once you have your plan in place, then you do your build, and you make sure, of course, you would set up Tag Manager and Google Analytics 4. Julie actually is about to do this. We'll show you briefly how it was set up, so at least you get an idea. But remember, it's not going to be a full-fledged training, just something that shows those of you with skills already in GA4 and Tag Manager and Data Studio, a way that you can use them to combine and to create this report. It's really cool. So, of course, you're going to have your traffic coming in, make sure UTMs are all structured, and then you tie them together in a story. There's no better story than the Eyes on the Journey report, and you will see that because it shows you a very quick, easy to follow funnel that will tell you kind of exactly the conversation that's happening between the user and, in this case, a very specific step of your customer journey. Then, of course, we listen to the conversation because now we've measured everything out. We then forecast based upon the trends and patterns we're seeing. We forecast what our near future will be based upon our recent past as we're marketing forward. And then we measure against our forecast. That's what tells us what to optimize. And of course, that is how the whole measurement marketing framework works. And that's how you end up getting results and profits, because now you know where to focus your resources. Yay, measurement! All right, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and bring in Julie Brade. She is our guest instructor for today, a lead instructor over at measurementmarketing.io. She's been teaching this since 2017 to our private guided training clients. She's been an account manager, continues to be an account manager for our dedicated measurement clients. She's in Data Studio all the time. She runs our measurement team over at measurementmarketing.io. And is just in this all the time, coming up with cool new techniques and new ways of working on various tools. And we thought, man, this just makes a ton of sense that we should bring on Julie Brade. So without further ado, Julie, I'll let you share your screens and take it away.
Thank you so much for that awesome introduction, Mercer. So we are going to go ahead and dive right in. For those of you that don't know what Eyes on the Journey is, here is a very quick overview so that you can maybe possibly implement this for yourself or for your clients. So what we have, Eyes on the Journey, is basically a view into a very specific part of the journey. In this particular instance, it's a very specific funnel that we have, and it's looking at the offer page for this funnel. So as you can see, because we have everything kind of color-coded, conditionally formatted, our offer page conversion rate for this particular funnel is not where we're expecting it to be because we have this goal. And so the way Eyes on the Journey came, because we were trying to figure out, like, well, what are they doing? Where are they falling off on the page? Where are they not engaging? Where can we improve? Where can we optimize so we're not guessing? And so that's where and how we came up with Eyes on the Journey. And so here are our definitions, our legend for this particular funnel's Eyes on the Journey. We would also have a second Eyes on the Journey if the cart, if we needed to, or other pages, so that we can see how users are going through the page, how they are possibly, maybe are they meeting expectations, what we're thinking they're supposed to do or not, so that the marketing team can then go through and update where they need to. In this particular instance, we have forecast as well, because it's always going to be kind of like where we're aiming to be. And in this instance, because we want to get users through the cart, this end goal is actually the same thing as this one here. And don't get caught up in the fact that these numbers are slightly different. It's just because they're measured in a slightly different way. So we're able to see exactly where we want to improve. So we could improve here a little bit, but actually this is the step that needs the most improving, which would indicate to our marketing team, hey, we need to get them to engage more in this so they can do this down here. And so that's how our marketing team would know exactly where to go. There's no guessing. The data does not lie. And they don't have to come and try to change anything on the page besides exactly what the data is telling them. You know, they could say, oh, let's change the headline above the page, but we can see from up here the headline's working exactly the way it's supposed to. So for this particular workshop, we're going to guide you through how to do this in Google Analytics 4. We've already had plenty of other workshops, and I'll show you where those are at real quick. I just have to log into our Measurement Marketing Academy, and I want to make sure you know exactly where to go for those of you that are Academy members, or for those of you that are thinking about becoming Academy members. You want to know exactly where to go to find this information. So if you go to On-Demand Workshops, which is basically a giant library of videos like these, but they're cut down, and you have lots of cool editing, what we call our student editions, editing features of Zoom effects and things that make it just really easy to grasp material. So you're going to come in here and look for the word journey. And if you want to kind of learn more about the strategy behind the journey, here is a workshop. And if you want to learn how to customize it, you're able to go through here, and just there's all kind of other workshops. We even have a tool for you. If you go to your toolbox, again, for Academy members, you have something here that basically walks you through how to use a plug and play option, where you get a container for Google Tag Manager, and it has all the information there. I'll watch all the videos, and you can even have a dashboard that is for using this with universal analytics. And so again, this workshop, we're going to basically take everything that you have from here or from what you've customized from and use it and apply it to GA4. So this workshop is not teaching you how to use Google Analytics 4, not teaching you how to use Google Tag Manager or Google Data Studio. It's kind of a high-level overview of everything for Eyes on the Journey. So let's go ahead and dive into Google Tag Manager. So we're actually going to type in IOJ because I know they're going to pop up. And this is exactly what we have here. So the very first one that we have for our Eyes on the Journey, yours might be different if you customize yours. And so the very first one we have is this. And we are using the exact same trigger that we used for Universal. If you don't already have one for Universal, that is okay. You can go through the other trainings and kind of decide what trigger that it is that you want to have. And so as you can see here, we have it for the Universal Analytics for Eyes on the Journey. And again, this is going to look really familiar for everyone that's been following along with this for a while. So just to know, your trigger is going to be the exact same. So that's the only part of it that you just kind of know that you're going to be able to use. Your signal is the same that you're using from Universal to GA4. All right, so the type of tag that we're choosing obviously is going to be a GA4 event, not a configuration. Then the configuration tag, we just choose whatever it is that we have here, whatever option it is that you're using for your Google Analytics 4. The event name. This is where you might adjust slightly depending on what you want to use. I know a lot of users, and it's a really clever technique if you're not familiar with IOJ or Eyes on the Journey, is possibly doing something like I1 underscore. So it's IOJ I1 underscore impression. That way you know which order they go into when you see all of the different I words, and you're not confused which one goes where, and you know exactly which one. So that might be an option for you, or maybe you don't want to have IOJ and you want to do it that way. So just know that you can tweak this. Just remember exactly how you name it, so that you can find this information later on, which we'll talk about in just a moment. So you will basically do this for all. We're going to discard our changes for all of your different eyes, all parts of your eyes on the journey here. So we have impression, then we have introduced as the second one, interested, investigated, initiated. And so if we come over here to our dashboard, those are the 5. So if you have more than that, obviously you'll do that for yourselves. And you just, again, go through and, have the event name and use the trigger. Honestly, if you're familiar with Tag Manager, this should take you about 5 minutes, maybe that long, because you're just copying and pasting, adjusting the word and naming it. So that's all you have to do. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. All right, then in Google Analytics 4, where do you find the information? So there's a couple different places, but the most common one you'll probably see is under configuration. And this is the default location that you can land on is under events. Possibly you might want to turn on and mark it as a conversion. Once you have data coming through, you might want to do that. It's not required or anything like that. It's just maybe you want to play with it and see if it is useful for you. The other place that you can find this information is under reports. And since we know it's an event, we're going to look under engagement, because events are always engagements, or I shouldn't say always. Events are usually engagement. And then we have events, and we scroll down and we can see it here. And you can also, something very new, you can actually come over here to our little dots and you can mark it or unmark it depending on what it's currently set at as a conversion. So the same thing we had the little toggle on the previous page, you can do it over here as well. So it's different pages you can do that, and then you can kind of dig into more information here if needed. So that's how we can see this information in Google Analytics 4. For building an IOJ dashboard here, we actually don't have to do really anything inside Google Analytics. We don't even have to turn them on as mark them as a conversion. We just want to see how the information is coming through, because we need to make sure we grab the right parts and pieces for Data Studio. So we know it's called event name, and we know because of the way we named it in Tag Manager, it's IOJ underscore and then whatever it is. And then yours might be slightly different depending on how you name it. If you have the numbers in there, I1, I2, then you'll have to kind of make sure you remember that. But this is how you find it. I personally think the easiest way to see them is under configure, just because it's an easier chart to view. You don't have everything else in front of you to try to distract you. So that's just my personal preference, but you might choose differently. So let's hop over to Data Studio. So we have just kind of like a playground that we've been working on for a little while. And so here is actually an IOJ4 with the GA4 data that we've been playing with. And we will hop over to a page that has this all kind of lined out exactly how we put it together. So, and even it's named how we put it together. And these are all the different parts and pieces of things that we've done on this particular dashboard that we will be sharing with you. And there we go. This is just because I have it made at report level and it's kind of hiding behind there. Again, this is not a workshop on how to use and learn Data Studio. It's just assuming that you know Tag Manager and know Data Studio, and you want to build upon your skills. So I'm going to go a little bit fast on this, but again, for those of you that may not know these things already, there's plenty of workshops in the Measurement Marketing Academy for you, or if you're not already an Academy member, you can try it out for 30 days risk-free. Just Mercer can let you know about that at the end of this workshop. All right, I1 impression, and I actually named it this. So we're actually going to start from a very beginning, exactly how you would do this, but it's going to end up looking like this in the end. So I'm going to click off of this, and I'm going to add a chart. It's going to be a scorecard. And I don't prefer to use views because I don't feel like that's a useful truth. And so for us at measuredmarketing.io, we're always looking for the most useful truth. And usually that useful truth is going to be users. And in the terms of GA4, we're using total users. And so it all depends on the question you are asking. And so you have to be careful with that. So if you have a slightly different question, if you're not trying to figure out the users, you want to know about how many page views, then you would use views. But for most part, everyone's like, how many users did this action? So you're going to use total users when you're looking at GA4 data. So now we have total users, but we want to know the total users that had, going into back to analytics, we want to know had the event name of this. So in Data Studio, we're going to add a filter, and we are going to go ahead and we'll create a new filter, which will walk you through exactly how to do this. We're going to see event name, and we're going to choose contains. And again, this is exactly how you name it. And so IOJ underscore impression, and then it's space sensitive, case sensitive, all the things sensitive of exactly what you have here. So make sure that you match that. And then we're going to, I'm going to call it test because I already have one that is there, but I'm going to say IOJ underscore impression. And we're going to save that, and it's already been applied. And here's our new number with that. So one thing that you'll also want to do is to make sure that you add whatever page it is. So when you start with Eyes on the Journey, you might only set it up for one particular page, so you might not have to do this step. But for those of you that put Eyes on the Journey on multiple pages, which is exactly what we do, you'll have to add this other filter, and I'm just going to go ahead and grab it from the one that we already have, and I'll show you exactly what we did. So this one, again, GA4, you have to kind of do this a little bit differently than Universal. So include when the page path contains this portion of URL, which for us, it means this is the offer page URL. And so this is exactly how we name it. And so what we're saying for this particular scorecard is I want to see the total users for those that have IOJ impression, event name of IOJ impression, and are doing that on the Academy offer page. So not that they saw the Academy offer page in their session, but this is happening on the Academy offer page. Very important because that's the question you're asking. So then what you would do is rename this however you want, and this is where we're demonstrating how you can name it I1 impression. So even if you don't name it I1, I2, I3 inside Tag Manager, to reflect in analytics, you can name it here to make it easier for yourself. So that just kind of lets you know that even if you don't do it beforehand, you can do it afterwards. So now we have I1 of impression. You would copy and paste that, and then you're going to remove the impression. You're going to add a new filter. You can create another one and go forth and do that. I'll show you another little shortcut for yourself. If you go to Resources and Manage Filters, you can then see as our final ones at the bottom. You can duplicate this and then come into Edit, and then we're going to get rid of the word impression, put in introduced, get rid of copy of, and handy dandy copy and paste, grabbing this, grabbing that. And again, space sensitive, case sensitive. Make sure if you use IOJ introduce, don't try to put introduced with the ED. So it's always going to look for exactly what it is. And so for us, we have the EDs on the back at the end of most of our words. So for us, we know that if you don't have those, you'll have to put yours in slightly differently. So we save it. It's going to get rid of all the screens we just had when we're copying it. And so now what we see here, even though it says I1 impression, we can come over here and add our new filter we just copied. We just duplicated that one, and now we have that. So here's our introduced, and it doesn't automatically change the name. So we're going to go over here and say I1 of introduced. And for those of you that are wondering, how do we get the emojis? That is quite literally just utilizing Chrome and just right-clicking, use emoji, and then this is where you can put a hamburger in there, something like that. So whatever it is that you want, that's how we get the emojis in there for IOJ. So that's a bonus trick for you. So once you have all of your different eyes, so these are the ones we just kind of played with, tested with, I want to put them over here. And so you'll do that for all 5 of them, and then you'll come through and you'll blend the data together. So you select them all, blend the data together, and then you're going to have a new data source right here. So Academy IOJ. And this particular scorecard is only reflecting this particular one. And then what you would do is, so remember, it's Academy IOJ, we come over to a chart that we would have, that we'd want to use, and we would have Academy IOJ. So going back to where we had this, like, well, how do we get to that chart? Well, again, this is kind of part of what we have back there already in the Academy, but I'll show you real quick. You go to your community visualizations. We like this one with, from Power My Analytics. You drop it here, and it's going to grab the most recent data source. So if it wasn't your most recent data source, you just remove it and find where it says Academy IOJ. Sometimes you have to refresh it for it to reflect that, but then you'll have it. So make sure, and if you don't rename your blended data, it'll start with blended data 1. But again, this is not a workshop on exactly how to use Data Studio. So for those of you that already know that, you're good to go. If you don't, use Ask Instructor Support and we'll guide you through that. So now that we have I1 here, we can just go through and drop everything in here, and we'll have our eyes on the journey chart. And the only thing that we have left to do is to put this in exactly where we would need it, whatever page we would need, and add in our forecast for each of these different steps. So that is how you use eyes on the journey and transition eyes on the journey from Universal to using GA4, or not even having to use it in Universal, but utilizing this amazing method to be able to see exactly where you need to be able to improve upon your page and not have to guess, and using measurement to guide your actions. So I want to let Mercer take it over. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Julie. Again, Julie Brade is in the Winner's Circle. She's at Ask an Instructor Support. So if anybody's got any questions on that, feel free to reach out to Julie there. What was your one thing? I know, when you think about the friend link. Oops, sorry about that. Hang on just one second. I'm getting a little bit of feedback in my ear. There we go. In terms of the one thing here, I think there's a little bit. One is seeing that funnel widget, just the community visualization, and seeing that that's back there and how to use that. Because you can use it for more than just IOJ, obviously, if you wanted to. You could also just think about what else you could use that pattern for instead of impressions and interest, et cetera, et cetera. Because it was a pretty easy technique to be able to figure out and build funnels with, and customer journeys and flows. As Julie showed, little things about emoticons, right? And how to do that could be back there. So maybe that was a one thing that you can add to it, even if you're not interested in the IOJ report. Next week, we are going to be talking about how to use the measurement framework to get the most from your Google Analytics 4. It's a strategy session. In order to get that, just be sure to subscribe. Now, you also have the option of getting Measurement Marketing Toolbox. If you want, it's completely free for those of you who want a free membership level. Just go to measure.tips/ww, put in your name and email, and it'll send you out the login for that. And of course, as Julie mentioned, you do have 30 days to try out the Measurement Marketing Academy completely risk-free. If you would like to go find the most current offers there, measure.tips/getacademy. With that, we'll go ahead and wrap this one up. How to create the Eyes on the Journey report using GA4 and Data Studio. Thanks again for watching this Beyond Basics workshop, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.